Coming up on tonight's UAP News Show.
Nazca Mummies and Buga Sphere, mystery or revelation?
And Wall Street Journal UFO hit piece, the sequel.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of UAP Society's weekly UAP News Show. I'm stoked to get started, so without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Greetings, cosmic enthusiasts. It's Justin here. Let's dive right in.
Up first, Nazca Mummies and Buga Sphere, mystery or revelation? This first story takes us straight to Mexico, where U.S. Congressman Eric Burlison, along with Dr. Stephen Greer and constitutional attorney Daniel Sheehan, made headlines by appearing at a high-profile press conference hosted by journalist Jaime Maussan. Officially, the spotlight was on the Buga Sphere, a strange metallic object recovered in Colombia, now being examined for its unusual properties in connection to the UAP phenomena. Engineers and scientists presented surprising findings, and new witness videos added fuel to the fire. But that's only half the story. They were also there to take a serious look at the highly controversial Nazca tridactyl mummies, a subject that continues to divide the UFO community. With all three figures showing up in person, the message was clear. This story might be more important than skeptics want to admit.
All right, to get things rolling, here's a cool clip from Pavel over at Psychoactivo Podcast. Trust me, it's worth your attention.
So Maussan has been covering a case from Colombia called the Buga Sphere. They allegedly found fiber optics inside this object. It allegedly emits some type of radiation. There's a lot of people that have been to Mexico City to see it in person. I know that Jesse Michaels saw it in person, for example. And now we have new people seeing it in person. Check it out.
It will change. Very important figures from the U.S. Congress. Very important people are going to come. They are flying right now, and they are going to come. They are going to be, don't know if they're going to talk or not, but they're going to see it. They're going to have the information.
Let's understand advanced technology from an unknown origin. We'd like to thank each of you.
That is Jaime Maussan's son, Sebastian.
And I'd like to welcome each of our guests, like Congressman Eric Burlison, who's a representative of the state.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. Eric Burlison is there.
Of Missouri from the United States. Thank you, Congressman Burlison, for being here.
So, Burlison, Sheehan, Daniel Sheehan, the lawyer, Dr. Stephen Greer, and Tim Alberino are there. Maussan is right here to the right, sitting next to them. But the big person, the big man right there, Eric Burlison, is there.
I would also like to thank Dr. Stephen Greer. He's founder of the SETI Institute for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. I would also like to welcome Daniel Sheehan, a world-known lawyer, a constitutional lawyer. He's a political activist and an educator. Welcome, Daniel.
So that happened. Yes, Representative Eric Burlison visited Mexico City to see the Buga Sphere, and obviously he took some time also to take a look at the tridactyls closer. As a result, it is only going to bring way more attention than they already have. This should be headlines everywhere in the world because an American congressman was just at a Jaime Maussan press conference looking at the Buga Sphere and the Nazca tridactyl beings for the first time ever. That, I think, is progress, regardless of whoever's political ideas, religious ideas, or bias. We shouldn't pay too much attention to that.
I don't know about you guys, but I just think it's pretty cool seeing those people there at the press conference together, notably Eric Burlison with Dr. Greer and Danny Sheehan. I thought that was pretty cool that all three of them were there.
Yeah. I you guys know me by now. I love when people get together and do things like either in a collaborative, is that a word? Collaborative. There we go. Collaborative effort. And just do things like that. And I agree with Pavel that it's a pretty big deal that, three American, I would say pretty top tier UFO community type of people. Some people may disagree with that based on certain person that was there that not everybody loves, but yeah, I just think it's really cool that they all showed up to this event. And in case you missed the event or didn't catch up on it or whatever, you haven't seen it yet, next up I put together a quick highlight reel clip from that event itself, and it's just basically like a little neat summary to get you caught up quick.
Okay.
All right.
So we got our investigative reporters here. We got our eyewitnesses present. We got Congressman Eric Burleson, who's going to try and give some validity at the legislative and congressional level. We have attorney at law Daniel Sheehan, who's famous for the Watergate burglary and the Iran-Contra affair. And we have Dr. Stephen Greer, who's head of the Disclosure Project. We have people from all walks of life. We got the citizens, we got the scientists from NASA, by the way. We have a few scientists that are visiting us here today, analyzing the results of the tests that were done at Mexico's Autonomous University. So we're going to start by looking at the videos that make this discovery so important. This is the video of the sphere that was filmed by Maria Bedoya, who went out to feed her cattle. Can we have sound on the video, please? We got sound on the video? That's the video that she filmed initially. At the distance, we can see the sphere floating through the air, and you can see a green reflection on the top part of the sphere. And this seems to be an important component, and it varies in different colors and tones. A little bit after that, the sphere touched the high-tension voltage cable, and it fell to the ground. This is the first video, which is extraordinary.
In Congress, we've been blocked from receiving the briefings that we need. And so I think that it's long overdue. Look, it's not any government's right to protect any knowledge about extraterrestrial or, non-human intelligence if it exists. And so we have too many people reporting things. We have too many videos coming out to ignore it. I think I have a responsibility on oversight to investigate it and do my due diligence, and that's why I'm here. And so thank you for hosting this, and I'm looking forward to seeing further scientific discovery.
This is Dr. Stephen Greer.
And I'd just like to recognize the courageous people who picked it up and brought it. Now, there have been spheres found before, and in the United States, special forces thugs go in and get them, and people have been killed possessing them. Very smart that you keep it safe and that you also disclose it. It's transparent. Everything goes out. My assessment of this is pending, but it's certainly real. So I think there's a lot of investigation. We have some really good scientists here with us who can do those research with you and confirm and help and join forces with your effort. So my own sense of this is that it's obviously real, it's anomalous. We have seen these sort of spheres before.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Sheehan. I am an attorney in the United States. That's why I am here. I am here from the United States as an attorney working with the investigative group that is going to be doing this, and we're going to take steps to make certain that the United States government and other national security elements around the planet cannot get custody of this technology, cannot stop us from doing an independent investigation of this technology and determining exactly what it is. And we're going to be completely professional about it. We're not making any assumptions about what it is. We know that it's not normal. This is not normal. This is moving in a particular way that has not been suspended by any balloons or any kind of craft. This is on its own, moving in a way that's in opposition to normal gravity. It's an anomalous phenomenon. and we're going to investigate it. And we're working very closely with the members of Congress. That's why Congressman Burleson is here today to assure you that there are people, elected officials in all governments around the world who are dedicated to trying to get this information and be accurate about it and make it available to the people. You saw the videos that there's another one that's flying around that is actually active in the area here down in Colombia. That we're going to be seeing what we can do to monitor that one to determine whether or not it's actually receiving any signals, whether it's emitting any signals. We have a one here. We have the other one potentially under surveillance as soon as we can. And we're going to be making this available to the people.
Okay, so I just want to give a quick shout out to Christina Gomez for live streaming that event. I just noticed watching the clip back that I didn't see her logo anywhere on the screen. So I just want to be the one to like give her the props that was from her live stream. So shout out to the Christina Gomez YouTube channel and the Strange and Unexplained Discord server and all the mods there. You know who you are. All right, and somebody call 911. Before we dive any deeper into this story and go down the rabbit hole even further, I need you to listen to this intriguing piece of information from Dr. Stephen Greer that came out from this event shortly after the whole state, you know, when they were talking on stage and all that. I'll say less. So basically, Michael Mazzola tweeted, "Men posing as cops have attempted to confiscate the Bugosphere."
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Stephen Greer. I'm in Mexico City. As many of you know, we've been examining the Bugosphere for the last 2 days with Congressman Burleson and a group of scientists. We've just been notified by Jaime Mason that there was an attempt by fake policemen to enter the vault where this Bugosphere is stored, and we have notified security and the apparatus I'm working with under law enforcement. And you should know that the other risk here is that we have taken specific samples from the Bugosphere that will be tested in a state-of-the-art lab to prove whether or not the metal, as well as some of the other components, are of Earth or outer space origin. Those scientists' information have been provided to the top law enforcement and security apparatus that I'm working with. And so any sort of attempts to interfere with this examination will be known, and the people and perpetrators will be held to account for. So this is what I wanted people to know, and we're doing everything to set up security for this. Thank you.
Okay, so that's pretty serious, right?
Very mysterious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't make this up.
Right.
I mean, it's like, you know, there's things that happen that, you know, throughout life that it's so bizarre. You know, you're like,
is this really real?
Right. I mean, it's like you can't even make it up.
Right.
No.
Right. And I mean, I'm honestly not surprised that you know, like if somebody really did pretend to be a cop to show up to the vault where they're keeping the Bugosphere to try to get it in their own possession. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I mean, they stole the Mona Lisa. Why wouldn't they want the Bugosphere, right?
Yeah.
But this is even like reminiscent to the last Nazca mummy event that I watched on live stream, which was back in 2024. And that's when the government, basically the Lima government, basically like rolled in
Peru.
Yeah, Peruvian mummies,
government.
right? Well, their government basically like rolled in like a SWAT team on speed, yanking the microphone from people like literally mid-sentence and trying to confiscate mummies that weren't even there. That was smart thinking on Jaime Maussan's part, because I guess he like kind of anticipated them showing up and trying to confiscate material, so he just didn't show up with it.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it live with like my jaw on the floor, because you know, 1 minute the conference is going on, people are talking, and the next minute, you know, people are storming the room, snatching microphones out of people, telling everybody to sit down and shut up. And I was like, okay.
I mean, it was bizarre, you know.
Right.
I mean, again.
Yeah. And in case you missed it or just can't remember or need like a refresher memory, here's a flashback.
Breaking news, we're here at the Nazca Mummies press conference here at the Sheraton Hotel in Lima. We're in the middle of Joas Mantia's speech. A group that appears to be from the Ministry of Culture has came in and literally grabbed the microphone from Joas Mantia and just started taking over. There appears to be a great conflict going on right now. I'm a little confused as to what's happening, but it's chaos here at the Sheraton Hotel in Lima.
So yeah, I showed that not to throw shade on any other governments or anything, but just to prove the point that like if people did show up to try to take it, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Would not be surprised.
Right. All right. Up next, we're diving into a fresh clip from Jesse Michaels' latest drop, where he and Roscoe Hart sit down for some real talk and insider insights.
Wait, have you just come back from Colombia or something? You're doing a Buga Sphere story?
I was in, this is what's crazy. And I know you've experienced, I'm sure, all sorts of stories where like it starts a certain way and then you have another story come up. So I was investigating these Peruvian mummies, these tridactyl, three-toed and fingered mummies from Peru. And then on the way back up to the U.S., I stop in Mexico City to meet with Jaime Maussan, who's a big proponent of this. And 2 days before, he happened to get this Buga sphere sent to him or whatever. And so I happened to be there.
I've got to know, what's your preliminary assessment? Is it real?
It's so hard to say.
Did you see what my friend Roni Vernay posted on Twitter?
Repeat it for the audience.
A fuel tank. And so there's a particular shape of fuel tank that is exactly 9 liters, and it's got similar holes to the one that Yami is relying on. And it does have the same seam running along the side. It looks like a direct visual match with a few changes, as if somebody's cosmetically altered it.
It's definitely remarkable, just the fact pattern. So there are symbols around the top. Apparently it's an aluminum alloy that's, 3 times the hardness of what we generally use in conventional aerospace. And then maybe the most interesting fact I can give you that is new to the audience as well is I showed photos of the symbols to Mario Woods and to Randy Anderson. Mario Woods, 1977 Ellsworth Air Force Base experiencer. And then Randy Anderson is this guy who was taken underground, at Crane, Naval Surface Warfare Crane, and was possibly shown some off-world technology. And both of them freaked out because it was like these were the symbols that they had both seen. Mario inside the craft.
I want to give you something because I'm not sure. And again, I am not avowing that this is my opinion.
Neither of us are endorsing the Buga sphere. We are these are facts that we are
neither endorsing nor debunking.
That's right.
But I did what I'm increasingly doing these days. I took a photograph of the sphere and I uploaded it to AI, and I asked AI, in this case I think it was Grok, and I said, can you please decipher these symbols for me? And it came back with this one phrase, the circuit.
Well, if you look at the top, it looks like a little semiconductor or a chip.
Yeah.
And then you have, this begets all these ontological questions of like, you have, I think his name is Patrick Jackson.
Yes.
You've done an amazing story. Everybody go watch Ross's story with this guy.
And I have seen one of these spheres in a different domain in the home of a beautiful man in Texas who is a good soul. And I can tell you, it may be the case that his sphere is now in the possession of Brandon Fugel, and the Skinwalker Ranch show is going to be paying to have that sphere properly investigated. There's a scoop for you.
That is.
I was going to run it on my show. So Jim Marlin is a former rock promoter who worked with Willie Nelson, and he told me, "I'm sorry, Ross. Brandon Fugel's agreed to fly it in his private jet to Utah, where he's going to have it tested in the lab." And look, frankly, I'm really happy if that's going to be the case for Patrick, who I know, and for Jim, who's a beautiful guy, to finally get an answer. And Brandon, I've spoken to Brandon about it, and I've encouraged him to do it. And so hopefully it's all going to happen. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's hope. That's amazing. And I think Patrick, because you were talking about the chip, and so where my mind might go with that, again, I don't know if it's real, is that this is some sort of like global control system or something.
Well, Patrick's theory is that these spheres are part of a global defense system by some alien civilization to keep the bad guys out of Earth.
Right.
And what I can report is whatever they are, I do think I can say they're real. They're a real phenomenon. Whatever they are, they're metal spheres with no visible means of propulsion. Dozens of people have told me that they've seen them flying or moving under their own locomotive power. There's no visible way in which they're moving, and I don't honestly know what to conclude about them.
Okay, so here's that tweet from Ronnie Vernay that they mentioned in case you want a closer look at what they were talking about. All right, Ronnie Vernay says, I firmly believe the Buga is a customized rocket fuel tank. Its internal volume of approximately 9 liters aligns with widely available commercial specifications, which also explains its construction from aerospace-grade aluminum alloy.
I'm curious what your thoughts are that since you're like an aviation dude and this is talking about being, rocket fuel, not that rockets and planes are the same, but
I mean, essentially they use a lot of the same stuff and a lot of the same construction methods.
Okay.
Are the same.
Okay.
To be honest, I can see definite similarities between the Buga and this rocket fuel tank.
Okay.
I mean, for obvious reasons. It's hard to say though. Just because there are similarities doesn't definitively mean that it's not anomalous.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there that I don't know. I haven't seen this sphere for myself. I haven't been able to hold on to it myself. But from some of the things that I'm seeing, it looks like it might possibly not be real.
Okay.
I mean, it definitely has similarities between it and that rocket fuel tank for sure. You can't deny that. But just because it's similar doesn't mean it's definitively not real.
Right.
It's a similarity. The aerospace grade aluminum alloy is more data that suggests that it's probably man-made.
Okay, I want to pick your brain about a point, and sorry if I'm interrupting you.
No, it's okay.
How much do you think that an empty fuel tank would weigh?
I mean, if it was aluminum and it was just a empty,
the rocket fuel tank that we're looking at on the left hand side, how much would that weigh empty?
Maybe a couple pounds.
Okay. I'm asking you that because during the part of the presentation where Jaime Maussan is on stage showing the video, there was actually a second video that I didn't include in the clip that I just showed you guys because, I mean, I can't show every little aspect of everything that happens because it's really hard for me to condense clips down as it is. But anyways, there was a second part of the clip that shows where the guy goes and like picks it up off the ground. But what was I getting at? Weight. Okay. So Jaime Maussan was saying that the weight of the Buga changed. That like when the guy picked it up, he said that, it weighs X amount of kilos or whatever he said. And then like over time, like a few minutes later, it was like all of a sudden heavier. So like the weight of the Buga somehow changed.
Huh.
I don't know how accurate that is. What scale were they using in the middle of the field where this guy was just out metal detecting? How did he know how much it weighed? And then I'm thinking like, okay, well, of course it's going to change. Because like if you're thinking of it like in terms of like a gas tank, right? A full gas tank obviously weighs more. And as you drive around, the fuel gets used up and consumed, and then the gas tank weighs less. So if this thing was using some sort of fuel, I'm thinking that it would get like it would weigh less over time. But Jaime Maussan was saying that all of a sudden, after they picked it up, it started to get heavier. So I don't know, that aspect of it was very confusing for me. I'm trying to make sense out of it, but I don't know if I'm making any sense at all.
Well, I mean, really, we can just go off of data, hard data, right? The fact that he's saying that it weighed more after it crashed or landed, I mean, that's hearsay almost. That's like what somebody told you happened. But do you really know? Did they put it on a scale?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what scale do they have in the middle of the woods where they're just?
I mean, obviously, you don't need a scale to know if something's heavy or light.
Right, but they were like, oh, it was first. It started off as 2, now it's 9. So based off of what?
Yeah, you have to basically take that at
face value.
Face value, right?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. There's some definite issues that I see with the sphere, to be honest.
Like what?
Okay, so all right, some of the issues against it are obviously it looks just like that rocket fuel tank. The seam looks very similar. Just because the hardness is 3 times the hardness of the metal is 3 times harder than regular aerospace aluminum grade metal. I mean, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me because you can change the hardness of metal very easily. You heat it up and then you submerge it into oil or water, same way that you do for when you're making a knife or a blade. Okay, you can change the hardness of metals pretty easily just by heating it up and cooling it off rapidly.
Extra hardness also doesn't mean that it's of non-Earth origin.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry.
There's some spots in the quote-unquote letters or what appeared to be a possible engraving where it looks like somebody marked where they were going to engrave, right? So they scored the metal, and then whatever engraving tool they used, they did not they did not remove all that material, so you can kind of sort of see the line that they drew of whatever shape of the shape of that letter that they were trying to make. Yeah,
I
so
didn't hear that. I heard that there was like tool marks. Is that the same as tool marks?
Yeah,
or is that
there's tool marks, and then there's also another spot where it looks like
marks and scoring?
It looks like they're scoring. So somebody like kind of drew out where they were going to engrave, but then they didn't quite get all the material out from where that trace line was.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So that is kind of suspicious, in my opinion. So given what I've already said, take that with a grain of salt. Because just because it appears as though the lettering might be engraved, or it appears as though the sphere could be a rocket fuel tank, that doesn't mean that it's not anomalous. Just because they're similar is not proof, right?
Okay.
So I definitely think that we need more data, hard data, which they're in the process of doing right now. They're getting samples, and they're going to be analyzing those samples. I would be very interested to see what the isotopic ratio of the aluminum is, right? And to see if there's any other metals mixed in with it.
Yep.
But some of the pros for the Buga is what we're getting ready to talk about.
Right. So there was another point that I wanted to bring up from that Ross Coulthart, Jesse Michaels clip. And that was when Ross mentioned about the sphere that he encountered with the guy from Texas, and how that sphere is now in the hands of Brandon Fugel. So we have the Buga sphere currently being tested right now. And then we have Ross's sphere being tested by Brandon Fugel. So I'm interested to see the results of each one individually, and then compare and contrast the results against each other and see what we can learn from that.
Right.
Okay, so that was the point that I wanted to make right there. So now I also want to move on to something else. Okay, so Jesse showed pictures of the Buga sphere, specifically the computer chip looking part that he was talking about in the video, to Mario Woods. And remember him? He was the 1977 Ellsworth Air Force Base witness that we talked about last week. That he was the dude at the nuclear facility. They had the big orange, red glowing thing that showed up. He was transported to a different location, missing time, all of that. So Jesse showed the computer chip picture to Mario Woods, and then he also showed the computer chip picture to Randy Anderson, who we featured on the show before, way back, I think it was like 5 months ago when his story first dropped on American Alchemy. And their reaction, total freakout mode. Those symbols were hauntingly familiar to them. Mario Woods said that he recognized those symbols from the craft that he was taken on board of. And then Randy Anderson said that he recognized those symbols from the deep underground base that he was taken to, that had an office that was labeled on the door with a little sign that said Off-World Tech.
Yeah. See, very interesting,
Right.
I mean, why would they freak out when they saw those symbols?
They freaked out because they were familiar with them, because they had seen them before. They were like, oh shit, look at this. Yeah. And then interestingly enough, Dr. Stephen Greer said something eerily similar at the press conference about a Green Beret that he had debriefed 2 days prior.
A tweet from No Passaran says, a Green Beret Dr. Stephen Greer is working with has identified some of the symbols on the Buga sphere as the same symbols projected from an unidentified device. Let's take a listen.
So my own sense of this is that it's obviously real, it's anomalous. We have seen these sort of spheres before, and I just want to share, 2 days ago, we debriefed a Green Beret he was in a subterranean facility, Crane, Indiana. It's a naval weapons station, and this is a top Green Beret, not many years ago. And he was taken underground, very deep, and it was shown several extraterrestrial devices, one of which had a device like a translucent, almost like a small iPad, but extraterrestrial. And it was putting up above that screen a series of letters or symbols, deep ink black. And they are on this sphere, 4 or 5 of them. So it's very unusual. Now this gentleman, he didn't have any association with those symbols until he saw this sphere. And in the interview 2 days ago when we were in Los Angeles, I'm not going to disclose his name right now. His information is going to a investigation law enforcement group in the United States that I'm working with that are looking into the criminal aspects of the secrecy of this. But he said these are exactly the symbols that were floating above this device in the air, about a foot. and that they had some effect in his awareness, and he thought it had something to do with activation of DNA and consciousness, some very unusual effect. So very interesting new testimony. It was very surprising to us, and I wanted to share that with you.
Interesting, you know?
I mean, hold on, wait a minute, because is Greer talking about the same Crane, Indiana facility where Randy Anderson worked? I mean, because this sounds exactly like Randy's story that came out 5 months ago. Fingers crossed Greer isn't like double dipping whistleblower stories again, because we know that he's had a history of doing that before. But yeah, I'm wondering if the Green Beret that worked in Crane, Indiana that saw some off-world tech is actually Randy Anderson.
Could be.
It could be Randy Anderson, or it could be somebody else that worked at that facility. I'm not sure. And I guess we won't really know until Greer breaks this story, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a quick trip back to January and revisit Randy Anderson's incredible story. And this is a clip that we've shared before, but one that's too good not to bring up again as this conversation heats up and it becomes relevant again.
Then what happens?
A couple days into the training, we were doing really well. Me and this guy were doing very well. And we got pulled to the side at the end of the day on a regular training day. And we stayed after and we're talking with the cadre instructors. And somebody else had come into the room, and we thought we maybe were just getting some extra stuff because we were doing well. And they ended up telling us we're going to go check out some foreign weapons. We went to another part of the facility, went to another building. In that building, we went into an elevator. We took an elevator down, which that was the first odd thing, is that it felt like we went down significantly further than like you would think you would. I mean, it was just awkward. It just stood out.
You went way underground.
I don't know if it was way, but it was further down than like a few floors, you know, so I don't know how far, I don't know how fast the elevator was going. I didn't know I needed to pay attention to it at the time. It's just something that stood out to me, that we were going underground. Yeah.
And these are pretty well documented now across America, you know, underground military facilities. And so, okay, so you're going underground. Did you know that there was an underground complex at Crane before this? Okay.
Absolutely not. Nope, wasn't briefed on it, didn't know about it.
So what's going through your mind at this point? You're going down underground in an elevator with these random instructors.
Well, at the end of the day, man, I'm a soldier and I do what I'm told. So I'm just following orders and just going and, okay, we're going to go here, go stand there, do this. But I'm observing, you know, it's starting to feel different, you know. The mood has definitely become more serious. You know, the people we were with seemed serious, and me and the other guy were just being quiet and, you know, not showing any emotion as we're trained to do. So we get under there, door opens, we go through a security type checkpoint. I remember the first thing that stood out to me was that it was significantly more modern than everything up top. Yep. And that was odd. The lighting and everything seemed more modern, just seemed more upkept.
Yeah, kind of state of the art.
Mm-hmm. It was very streamlined how things operated down there. So you could tell it was like very regimented. Just like you walk on this, everybody walked on the right side to go down the hall. Like people coming this way walked on their right. Mm-hmm. It's just, and there was like a line on the wall that you followed to different areas. You know how like the hospitals sometimes have like a line to follow to the emergency room. It was kind of that seemed like it was that. I mean, I wasn't 100% paying attention to that. I was just had observed it upon getting under there or getting down there. We moved through a security checkpoint, and then we started looking at some foreign weapons stuff, and they were telling us about some Russian and Chinese weapon systems that were captured. And I don't want to go too into the details and stuff. It's still within too kind of close proximity to that.
Sure.
That I don't want to go too far. But basically, it was pretty advanced stuff that they had been using that was captured, probably, I would assume, by agency types that were operating in the area and had come across stuff that had seemed exotic. It wasn't anything that would strike me as beyond what I'd expect us to find or people to have the capability of making. But it was interesting for sure. Just the type of ammunition and the way the weapon systems operated. There was some
kind of exotic, unconventional.
Yeah, unconventional.
Yeah,
I would say not so much exotic, but unconventional for sure.
Okay, so you're looking at this exotic, or not exotic, but unconventional adversary technology.
Yes. And again, it was really interesting, and I think we came up with a couple ideas of what we thought about it and purpose and functionality, and then they kind of, the two guys we were with spoke for a little bit. We ended up going through another security checkpoint, which that was odd because we had already gone through a significant level of security, and so I thought that was odd. This was more like going into a skiff.
Okay.
After that, we moved on down another hallway and got into an area that had a marking on the wall and said off-world technology.
said off-world technology.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So immediately my bells go off.
Was it engraved? Or was it?
No, it was.
Did it look like it was written in marker or something?
No,
or
it was, but it wasn't like it was like permanent. It was like somebody like stuck a placard in, kind of.
Okay.
Like, so I don't know. It could have been a setup. It could have been something just thrown together.
Sure.
But it could have been something that's just how they had.
But it said off-world technology.
Yeah, that obviously immediately started to feel what the fuck is going on, right? Yeah. So me and the guy are looking at each other. The other guy, he's another Green Beret. We're like, fuck, kind of giving each other that look, and yeah, that was where the weird shit started. So yeah, we go into the room, and the one room, these significantly higher level of technology, like the lighting even looked, everything was just, it was more, it was just a different vibe, man. I don't know how else to describe it. Like I said, the lighting was different. The walls had like maybe, I would assume, some type of Faraday material. Like everything was just a higher level of detail. Yeah. The first object was a metallic basketball-sized sphere, and it was above a podium, and looked like it was just levitating above the podium.
Levitating above the podium. Mm-hmm. So there was space between the sphere and the podium itself.
Correct. And I remember at one point, like, trying to angle myself, like, what? How is that?
Do you think it could have been some sort of magnetic levitation? Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
But it's just levitating there.
It was just levitating.
Did it look like a prosaic, like this wood table where if you were to, touch it, it would act like a normal object? Did it look holographic? What did it look like?
That's a good question. What stood out to me was the way the metal looked. It looked unnatural. And I talked with Gerb about this, and he kind of dug in on this. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah. All I can tell you is it didn't look natural. It didn't look like anything I could compare it to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So look, it almost looked like off-world.
It fit the bill.
Yeah.
And then also there was and this could have been anxiety or anything else, but the energy in the room, man, was just different.
So yeah, sounds like what Greer said, right? So, if there's another Green Beret that's coming forward, maybe it was the other Green Beret that Randy Anderson was with. Maybe it's that person. But it's just interesting that we have all these totally separate stories that are like somehow sharing similarities.
Somehow converging.
Yep, somehow converging, somehow sharing similarities. And, it's just very interesting to ponder. And I never even I obviously, if you guys watch the show consistently, you know that we haven't really touched the Nazca mummy thing or the spheres thing or anything like that recently. I felt like I didn't know enough about it, or I didn't feel enough of a certain kind of way about it to want to share an opinion about it. I didn't really I just kind of tabled it, but this became relevant to me now because, Burleson, Sheehan, and Greer all went to Mexico to do this thing. So now I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I don't know. My mind is still open. I haven't made up my mind definitively one way or the other yet. There's definitely some strong evidence against the Buga sphere, and then there's some decent evidence for it so far. I think we definitely need to keep an open mind and get more data, and just keep the open mind until we get the data.
Right.
Until we get those results. So yeah.
Good reminder.
Okay.
All right, now that we've unpacked those fascinating tech and whistleblower connections, let's shift gears and dive into another hot topic stirring up the UFO world, the infamous tridactyl Nazca mummies. We'll be digging into the debate over their authenticity, drawing on insights from some of the highest profile voices in the community.
A tweet from Renee says, in my opinion, all these mummies are fake, human/animal bones intentionally combined to look alien. However, for the people who think this is real, what is the best evidence/document you can provide? Link the document in the comments.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
And in reply, Dr. Michael P. Masters, who just happens to be the father of the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, says, I am a biological anthropologist and can definitely back you up on this, Renee. The small ones are clearly a melange of animal and human bones, often from different aged individuals, and the worst part is they were obtained through the desecration of native graves. It's all odious AF.
And Galaxopithecus chimed in with this. I examined the scans of the Mariah feet and hands, obviously faked, bones rearranged. Not animal bones in that case, just swapped around. Extra bones from the fingers they removed, used to lengthen the others. All right.
Not looking good on that sense.
No.
Not looking good on that sense at all. Okay, so we've heard from the folks who think that these mummies are basically held together by dust, cobwebs, and wishful thinking. Now let's check out some takes from the other side of the coin. A tweet from Jesse Michaels says, the actual translation here is laboratory for insemination and hybridization. Full documentary coming soon. Let's find out what he's talking about.
Yeah, because right now, I don't know.
Made these things,
right?
But they're things that only make sense from an aerial view,
and they're miles long.
What
are you doing?
And there are pictoglyphs, cave art all over the region with 3-fingered beings, with tridactyl beings.
Are there really?
There are, and this is the weirdest thing. There's a guy named Thierry Amin who is like the first Westerner. He's this French he's an amazing archaeologist and explorer. And he was the first guy that met Leandro, the gravedigger who found the bodies to begin with. Kalki is the actually local dialect there that's spoken. He says that the name of the general region means laboratory for insemination and cloning.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, in Kalki. Yeah.
What?
So I need to corroborate this. I don't have the skills to do that, but that's what he says. It's crazy.
What the fuck, man?
I know. But then
holy shit.
Why this case is such a headache is there's this guy Steve Mera who I think is he's a UFO researcher. He's one of the less mushy-brained UFO researchers. There's a lot of mushy-brained UFO researchers. Really smart guy. I've quoted him in a lot of my other videos, and he's we looked at one of the M types, one of the bigger ones that I'm still holding out hope for because I'd love it to be real. And he said that he did genetic analysis on 2 of the phalanges, and one came back male, one came back female. And so he was I think they were constructed. But I'm how do you get by these forensic experts? So it's this weird, it's just the DNA stuff, you don't get a good signal.
All right, so you heard it from Jesse Michaels. There's that region where in their art and stuff, they have these 3-fingered beings that are represented, and that whole region, that whole area is known for things that seem to have come from somewhere else, knowledge that seem to have come from somewhere else. The fact that the name of that region translates to laboratory for insemination and hybridization. So maybe that area is where aliens used to hang out and hybridize and create stuff and breed and whatever. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But what I'm saying is typically when you see cave art or engravings or pictographs or whatever, or drawings, whatever, it's because they're drawing what they're seeing in real life, right? So even if these mummies that we are currently looking at are fake, let's just say somebody did, let's just say they are potentially a hoax. Who's to say they weren't real at some other point in human history? That's why we're seeing all these pictograms and drawings and whatever of these type of beings. Maybe that's why they're relevant. Where would the idea for them to have come from at all, if not from maybe some real interaction and then a story passed down through generations? That's the point that I was trying to bring up with that.
Okay.
Bet you weren't ready for that point, right?
No.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about the people that think it's all a bunch of BS. I've just brought up to you the point that maybe even if it is all BS, the idea came from somewhere, and maybe that somewhere is from actual beings that did at one point walk across this earth with us, with humans, right? Okay. So now let's go and see the people that maybe think this actually is real.
All right. So one of the perplexing things to me is if this was complete BS, why do we have Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Why do we have those the aliens that come out of the ship at the end of the movie? Why do they look almost exactly like these tridactyls? Right?
Okay.
So
there's that.
That's one thing. Another thing is supposedly there was a picture taken of some kind of being that was frozen in ice. I want to say possibly Russia. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we'll find the picture. We'll put it up here. Supposedly this being was frozen and the ice started thawing. I don't know, but it looks eerily similar to what one of these mummies would have looked like, before it dried out.
Okay.
I mean,
See,
that's a little weird.
all right.
And then why would the Pope have a garb that has what looks like to be one of these ETs?
Yep.
On the sash.
Which again goes to the point that I made, that we're seeing these things because people have seen these things, right? I mean,
is it all just a coincidence? I mean, that's.
I don't think it's a coincidence. And a point that I want to make to your point with the aliens in the movie Close Encounters
E.T.
And E.T.
E.T. But that's Steven Spielberg, who I think is read in, or was told something, especially when he made Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the French scientist was Jacques Vallée in real life.
Okay.
And he also had help from J. Allen Hynek, who was in charge of Project Blue Book.
Right. Yes.
So it's like, why would all these things be lining up if there possibly wasn't something?
That's what I'm saying. You literally took the whole point straight out of my mouth and said it for me. Okay, so before this brain cell dies in my head, I have to get this thought out. Okay, so basically, to make a point to Justin's point about how these beings in Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind kind of look like these three-fingered tridactyl mummies, and the fact that there's also another Steven Spielberg movie, E.T., where they look kind of similar. I'm thinking of like an older Nazca mummy situation, the one that people made cake out of. I don't know. That looks like ET. But anyways, the point is that I really, really feel like Hollywood does a lot of soft disclosure.
Yeah.
They present things to us that are sci-fi, not real, truly imaginative. Meanwhile, I feel like there's a lot of truth to this stuff. Where would Steven Spielberg get these ideas from? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Hollywood tells us without telling us. Like Star Wars, Star Trek. Hello.
I mean, it makes sense it makes sense to disseminate information that way, to get a civilization ready for contact, right?
Get them used to the idea, make it something that's not like such a shock.
Exactly.
Something they can relate to when the truth does come out.
Right.
Oh, we told you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. It's this whole thing is wild.
It's definitely wild, right? Yeah, and then
I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. Me too. I mean, I'm here for the conversations that come out of it, at least.
Right.
All right. So one person who seems to think that there might be something to this whole mummy mystery is Ross Colhart. Let's roll a clip from his latest Q&A on News Nation.
Preliminary chats with Dr. John McDowell, myself, and I know he's convinced, based on his dental assessments, that these are some potential new hominid that is not human-based, not Homo sapiens. I'm also in touch with people in Mexico who've been involved in doing the research, and I'm also in touch with people in Peru. Suffice to say, you will be hearing more from me on this very shortly.
Okay, so Ross says there could be something to it. Hashtag stay tuned.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
Same. All right. The last point that I want to make about this whole story is I want to close out with consciousness. So remember that moment during the press conference when Greer took the stage and was talking about the Buga sphere and how he showed it to his Green Beret and they were talking about what it all is and everything. Well, basically, he said that it is something designed to, quote, activate DNA and upgrade consciousness.
And that they had some effect in his awareness, and he thought it had something to do with activation of DNA and consciousness, some very unusual effect.
All right, now keeping that in mind, here's another golden nugget from that Ross Colhart and Jesse Michaels conversation that's worth a listen.
All right.
It's how I felt when I started getting into psionics, because one of the first things that one of my sources in that Georgetown pub back in probably 2018 told me was, it's all about consciousness.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what he was talking about.
Right.
And it really has taken me probably 7 years to actually begin to understand. And now I'm realizing more and more, it's all about consciousness.
Yeah.
It really is.
I agree. So much is downstream of that.
I love that little reverb echo
the
effect
echo
that you put in there.
I have to fan because I've been standing on this "it's all about consciousness" hill forever, and I will gladly not die but ascend on this hill because I really feel like it's all about consciousness, and I feel like there's so many things that are coming to this kind of conversation that are basically all leading us in that direction. So things seem to be catching up to my train of thought, and I'm happy about that.
All aboard the Woo train.
All aboard the Woo train. Yes. Okay. So where does all of this lead? A metallic sphere that might just be more than meets the eye, and ancient beings challenging our idea of history, and respected voices stepping forward to say, pay attention. Whether you're team skeptic or fully aboard the Woo train, one thing is clear, something big is unfolding, and Mexico may have just nudged the conversation into a whole new dimension.
All right, so if the Buga sphere does activate DNA and boost consciousness, what does that say about who or what created it? Are the Nazca mummies real beings from another time or a clever hoax? What is your gut telling you? Ross Cohart said, it's all about consciousness. Do you agree? Is consciousness the real key to understanding the phenomena? Let us know in the comment section below.
My answer is yes. Okay.
Up next, the Wall Street Journal UFO hit piece, the sequel.
Part 2.
All right. Welcome to another explosive dive into the UAP files. This time, we're taking aim at part 2 of the Wall Street Journal's UFO disinformation saga. From mysterious Roswell medal passed to Art Bell to secret think tanks supposedly advising President Bush on UFO disclosure, this report blends real whistleblowers, historical breadcrumbs, and high strangeness with just enough spin to make the truth look ridiculous.
Of course it does.
But when you zoom out, what you're really looking at is textbook psychological warfare dressed as journalism. So today, we're peeling back the layers of misdirection, decoding the real agenda behind the piece, and asking, why now? And why this hard of a push?
All right, so the link to the full article is in the description if you want to read the thing in its entirety. But in this segment, we're pulling back the curtain on what it says, what it doesn't, and why it matters. Quick summary, because it's not worth the whole read, in my opinion. But anyways, let's break it down. Okay, so paragraph 1, Lockheed's UFO medal. The story kicks off with Sean Kirkpatrick casually asking defense giants if they've got any alien tech. Lockheed's Skunk Works had tested UFO material, but surprise, it turned out to be scrap metal from World War II. Classic bait and switch. Mention something wild, then debunk it for dramatic effect. And we feel like the disinfo move that they tried to pull in paragraph 1 is to tease the exotic, but then bury it in the mundane.
Yeah.
All right, paragraph 2, Art Bell's mystery medal. Remember Art Bell's Roswell fragments? They were sold, tested, and tied to anti-gravity research, but then just dismissed with a shrug. To the Stars Academy, Elizondo, Putoff, and Davis believed that the pieces were legit. But the disinfo move that they try to pull in this paragraph is to drag credible researchers into the realm of late-night radio and chupacabras to discredit them by association. So they're playing dirty in every single paragraph.
Yeah, and this is crazy.
Paragraph 3 is about Russian lasers and wormholes. Eric Davis, a respected astrophysicist, linked UFOs to Russian reverse engineering of alien lasers. The Wall Street Journal spins this as either Davis being duped or Russia using UFO disinfo to mislead America. So the disinfo move that they're pulling in this paragraph is to claim foreign misinformation to invalidate inconvenient truth.
Yeah, this whole thing.
That's why I didn't even feel like presenting the whole entire article to the people. I'm just giving them the breakdown. Paragraph 4 is all about a presidential disclosure panel. Hal Putoff recalls a 2004 think tank panel about whether Bush should disclose UFO crash retrieval programs. Sounds legit until everyone conveniently forgets it happened. So the disinfo move that they tried to pull was to float the idea of disclosure, then label it as a misunderstanding. Oopsie.
Yeah.
Oopsie.
All right, and then paragraph 5, Elizondo's missing safe. Elizondo says he stored UFO biologics data in a Pentagon safe. When investigators finally check it, empty. So the disinfo move here is to turn a serious whistleblower into a guy with tall tales and no receipts, even though his record contradicts that.
X.
Yep. All right, paragraph 6, drama, threats, and Trump Jr. The article ends with Grush, Elizondo, and even Don Jr. painted as aggressive, paranoid, or political. Kirkpatrick retires, writes a Scientific American sob story, and gets security detail like he's guarding Area 51 himself. So the disinfo move here is discredit the messenger. politicize the issue, make the public think disclosure equals danger, drama, and division.
Again, the whole entire article is packed with this trying to trick people thing.
Exactly.
And then the final take about the whole article, part 2, is that this is not journalism. It's damage control with the side of gaslighting, okay? Wall Street Journal's real mission is to probably just keep the public confused, turn whistleblowers into memes, and to make sure no one else asks real questions or takes this seriously, okay? The truth is still out there, and they really don't want you looking in the right direction. That's why they throw these types of pieces at you to get you to go, oh, but this article says this, so it must all be a bunch of BS. Meanwhile, the article itself is what's BS. Okay.
Exactly.
And then basically this article took a direct shot at astrophysicist Eric Davis, twisting his words and distorting the facts. But Davis did not stay silent. He clapped back with a strong rebuttal on the Good Trouble show with Matt Ford. Let's check that out.
In my conversations with Wall Street Journal reporter Joel Schechtman, I clearly explained that my statements in the 2009 New York Times article did not include any mention of Art's parts. Furthermore, I did not confirm or imply during our discussions that Art's parts were part of my interactions with Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal. Kean and Blumenthal can independently verify that our conversations were specifically about classified skiff briefings conducted in October 2019 relating exclusively to recovered non-human off-world craft, both damaged and retrieved by the U.S. government, since the mid-1940s and subsequently analyzed by select aerospace defense companies. My only mention of Art's parts to Joel pertained strictly to the Oak Ridge National Laboratory materials analysis report sponsored by Aero under the Army CRADA, whatever that is, with To the Stars Academy during my Pentagon visit last August with Hal Puthoff and Joe Cannon of the Army. We reviewed and discussed these ORNL, which is the abbreviation for Oak Ridge National Laboratory, findings directly with ORNL and Aero representatives. I explicitly did not associate this information with the 2020 New York Times article in my dialogue with Joel. Additionally, I explicitly informed Joel Schechtman that, quote, Art's parts lack credible provenance, being anonymously mailed to Art Bell along with an unverified account involving a grandfather allegedly discovering them in the New Mexico desert around the mid-1940s. I clearly expressed my professional skepticism regarding such anecdotal narratives. Joel's misunderstandings or misrepresentations of these points in our interviews has significantly affected the accuracy of his reporting.
And the accuracy of his reporting is definitely in question because it seems like he already had his mind made up about where the story was going and what they were going to say before they even spoke to anybody. Then they call up credible people like Robert Salas and Eric Davis, get them to make statements, but take their words, totally twist it around into a whole different narrative, and then make them look like the Looney Tunes.
Yeah, the whole thing is complete BS, in my opinion. You know, I mean, how do you discredit or how do you twist people's words to the point to where it makes them out to look like, you know, the idiots? You know, I don't get it. You know, this just goes back to show how media is not free
at all.
You know, I mean,
media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish fake stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The Wall Street Journal is publishing this hit piece to discredit all of ufology. You know, why are they doing it? You know, who are they taking orders from? You know, is it the Department of Defense themselves? Is it Sugo? You know, are they feeding them a line of BS? You know, I mean,
somebody is orchestrating this for sure.
Right. You know, and after getting all the blowback from the first part of the story, how do you continue on and publish the second part of the story knowing full well that you're publishing a lie?
Because their
I don't
jar of
understand.
F's to give is empty. They don't give a S about the truth. They
or they're
don't
being
care. They're
paid.
not trying to tell the truth.
They're being paid off to publish this.
That too. And then there's also people like that David Spergel guy who Jesse Michaels said was blocking an op-ed that was written by Carl Nell and another presidential somebody, I can't remember what the word is that he used, but basically there was another op-ed opinion that was like in rebuttal to this, and then the Spergel guy like blocked it from being published. So they're willing to publish the hit pieces, the disinfo pieces, and then they're blocking the things that are actually factual. Right. Like, I really don't think that the Wall Street Journal is going to publish Robert Salas's rebuttal. He wrote one. He sent it to them. He clapped back. Now Eric Davis is clapping back with a statement. I mean, everybody who this article is mentioning is like, oh, hell no, dude, you got my story all effed up. You're going to have to see me outside. Catch me outside. How about that? Okay. I'm glad that people are like fighting against this, because like this
me too.
is ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
Right. It is ridiculous, and it shows how inaccurate, reporting can be.
And how many people can believe that, because there are people that take the Wall Street Journal seriously.
Yeah, but I mean, in my mind, I'm no longer going to take the Wall Street Journal seriously after this. This is utter lunacy. In my opinion.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, there's so many people that think that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick Pants has his sticky little dirty fingers all over this thing. He's probably got it.
I wouldn't be surprised if, I'm sure he does.
Right. So what does a cash prize and the world's biggest UFO debunker have in common? In this final twist, we uncover an unexpected connection that ties them both together, and you don't want to miss this. It's actually really funny. So let's start off with one of the co-authors of this article, Joe Sheckman, took to Twitter and said, how a band of alien believers turned the myth of reverse engineering UFOs at Lockheed into something like reality. So basically, this is him posting that this part 2 article is now available. He's kind of like bragging, like, look what we did. Okay. So then Jesse Michaels replies to this. I love Jesse for this. I'm so here for this. Yeah. Okay. So Jesse replies to this and says, I would pay Sean Kirkpatrick $50K on top of travel and accommodations to come on my show and discuss these Wall Street Journal articles. Surely, if he's correct and not cynical about his positions, basic incentives would apply. My only condition is that we don't edit any of it.
And then he just posted this update yesterday. My buddy Kyle offered to double this. So we are now at $100K payment for a simple, unedited podcast appearance from Sean Kirkpatrick. Wow.
So Jesse Michaels threw up $50K. His buddy Kyle matched that. Now we're at $100K. And they're going to pay for his traveling and accommodations to get to the place where they're going to pay him to do this interview. And the only condition is that they can't edit out anything.
Right.
Wow. That would be great. That would be great. I would definitely want to watch that.
I would want to watch that too.
I will definitely be tuning in.
I mean, if he denies this, if Sean Kirkpatrick Pants denies this interview,
he's probably going to act like
that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think he's going to act like he's probably going to act like he doesn't see it. Like, I don't think he's going to respond at all. I mean, let alone take Jesse Michaels up on it.
Oh, he's still involved with watching all the information, so I'm sure he sees this or is going to, or somebody who knows him sees this and is going to tell him. I wouldn't be surprised, but I hope he does it. I really do.
Well, Mr. Sean Kirkpatrick Pants, if you happen to be listening to the UAP Society new show, get your behind over to the Jesse Michaels studios and have a real conversation. Let's see where it goes and get paid for it. Why not? All right, there you have it. The Wall Street Journal article doesn't just miss the truth, it tries to bury it. Whether it's warped timelines, mysterious metals, or whistleblowers being gaslit by legacy media, this is more than just sloppy journalism. This is strategic obfuscation, a careful, coordinated attempt to undermine the credibility of those closest to the truth. But here's the kicker. If it was all nonsense and just a bunch of shabuki, they wouldn't have to work this hard to convince you. Now, would they?
All right, so what do they gain by discrediting people like Rush, Elizondo, or Eric Davis, especially when those figures are gaining public traction? Why are these articles not neutral, but instead laced with mockery, contradiction, and character attacks?
Think about it.
If there's really nothing to see, why invest this much effort into telling us that? Right?
You tell me.
Make sure to go to the Lato Files Discord server and share your thoughts with the community there. An invite link can be found in the video description box below, along with all of the other sources that are featured in this show, so make sure to check that out.
And that concludes this week's UAP Society's weekly UAP news show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And while you're here, please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. Let's raise the collective consciousness together in unity. All right, much love, peace, and namaste.
Spaceship.